Welcome to your favorite drive-in theater and a sparkling new season.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Oh, there it is. 1 week off and Jim loses his freaking mind.
You guys, I finally watched Onward.
Okay.
Yeah. I cried for like a half an hour.
Yeah, Pixar really knows how to dig into your friggin' psyche there.
I feel like they have all my emotional manipulation buttons pressed.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like for every single movie. Even the shorts. Because
sometimes even more so with those.
Like the short Bow. I don't know if you guys remember Bow. It's about the woman who makes the little bow.
Oh, yes.
And it's
the
her
dumpling.
son. It
The
represents
dumpling,
her
right?
son,
The
right?
dumpling, yes.
And the son's always with her until he rebels and they get an argument and he leaves the house. And I am like a slobbering mess every single time I watch that.
Yeah.
What did that play with? Which movie?
Incredibles 2?
It's something in the last couple of years.
But you're right. I think that they actually have a whiteboard with just all these key points. All right, we need to friggin' nail it home with this one right here. You can't watch that first 5 minutes of Up without friggin' deteriorating into a
I can't
mess.
even hear the music for Inside Out without...
I know.
That one really threw me away because I had no expectations for it whatsoever. And that is probably one of the only Pixar movies I did not see in the theater.
Yeah, we saw it multiple times because it played at the drive-in for like 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, so speaking of the drive-in, you see that there's this big, huge resurgence that they want to start, that's going to be the new theater. We're just going to go back to drive-in movies now.
It makes sense because everyone's in their
cars.
Well, that's great if you're in California or Florida.
Correct,
but...
right. Yeah. We're all driving to Highland now.
I was gonna say, or upstate New York, but
that means you can only go like in the summer, and then you're out of luck for the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, the one I grew up in Bath is closed, and there's I think it's a two screen in Elmira, so they're back to back. So they're basically showing 4 movies. Depends on which one you want to go to, but even talk about some of these states that are looking to reopen. But if they reopen the theaters, what are they going to be showing?
I know.
Yeah. Well, I think we're already. Let's start the episode now because I think we're already into.
Well, we're already in.
We're back.
And you just kind of overheard our conversation here, but this is what I wanted to bring up in the news as to what would be playing in a movie theater once they reopen. Because I saw an article. AMC has gone on record saying that they're not going to reopen until they have new content to show.
Right.
So is that going to be like one movie, like every weekend that they're going to show? They've
but they're not going to release new content until the theaters open. So it's
they've got these mammoth 16 screen theaters, and I think at the moment Tenet is the earliest one that's still on schedule.
It's still on schedule for July. Yeah, Warner Brothers is like, screw this. So this is what you do: is you just put it on every screen in your multiplex, and you just let 10 people into every one of those theaters.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, it's a digital download, so it's not like you're paying for the extra film.
And then as the weeks roll on, then Mulan is supposed to come out a week or two later after that. Then they can slowly, gradually open the other theaters up again.
Wonder Woman's coming out like right around my birthday. So like they moved it back to August. So now it'll be like my birthday present to go and see Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah. But Tenet is really in a prime position to do very well now at the box office.
There's no competition whatsoever.
I think
Of
it
course,
would
we all
have
walked out and
anyway.
have to see it multiple times anyways because it's a Nolan film. You'd be like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the ones I was really looking forward to for this year anyway. So
Yeah. See, that's the one thing I love about him is he doesn't give away anything.
But people
those
that would
trailers.
never normally go to see a movie like that.
No, you're
are gonna
right.
Go.
Yeah, just to get the freak out of the house. I had a guy yesterday I was delivering, and he's like, I've been trapped in this house. He got golf equipment, so I don't know if he was like setting up a putting range in his basement, but he was like, I'm going crazy.
do you have other news, Jeff?
I do have some news. Some of it might be old at this point. But we'll just start into it. Obviously, we already talked about this theater reopening and the fact that Tenet is still on the schedule, which kudos to them to stick their ground and let's see what happens. Jim, I know you're a big Disney guy, and with all the parks closed, no one's going there. It's very sad. But Disney Parks, I think it's on their blog, they have started releasing recipes for all of their, I guess, their trademark foods, like their churros and the Dole Whip, which I don't even know what that is, but apparently
You don't know what that is?
You don't know what a Dole Whip is?
No, I guess I don't. No.
It's so good.
I've only been to Disney twice in my life, and Dole Whip was not on it. But they're now releasing these recipes so you can go and make your own. Put on your little Mickey hat and pretend that you're still in the Magic Kingdom.
So if you go to the Magic Kingdom, Florida, there is the Dole Whip stand. There's actually, I think, a couple of different places you can get it in Adventureland. But the main place, and this is where the Orange Bird is right across from what is now the Tarzan treehouse. That used to be the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. And that
got kicked out, huh? But yeah, I guess maybe we'll share it up on the website. Let's see what else. Oh, Taika Waititi, because once again we can't go a single week without talking about him. He was live streaming on Instagram, and he was dropping little tidbits about Thor: Love and Thunder. Nothing really earth-shattering. Obviously, we're getting more Korg, which a character he voices, which is kind of cool. But apparently, we're also getting some space sharks. So I thought that was like, that right there is worth the price of admission alone. His direct quote. He's talking about the script now. It's so over the top in the very best way. It makes Ragnarok seem like a real run-of-the-mill, very safe film. This new film feels like we asked a bunch of 10-year-olds what should be in a movie and just said yes to everything. It's right up our alley.
Wow.
I'm thinking this, I think the last time a 10-year-old wrote a movie, that was Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Let's see. Apple TV, Fraggle Rock. Did you watch?
I did watch Fraggle Rock.
You did watch Fraggle Rock. They're back.
Yeah.
Apple TV has rebooted them. I guess it's called Fraggle Rock Rock On, and they're little 3 to 5 minute episodes. And I guess the first episode's already up there.
Same characters.
Same characters. Yes. And the interesting thing is that it's all being shot remotely. Obviously, we're in this social distancing. All the scenes are being shot with iPhone 11s.
Wow.
By different artists, and then somehow cobbled together into one coherent show. So for all you Fraggle Rock aficionados out there and Muppet fans, Jim Henson.
I hope they have Marjorie the Trash Heap. I hope she makes a comeback in this.
I don't see why not.
It's up already? They already have it out?
Yeah, they said the first episode's up already. And I got one more news item, which I think is pretty cool. So we know when all of this craziness went down that our beloved Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson were trapped in Australia. They've since recovered from the infection, and now they are donating their blood for a cure.
Cool.
And as he liked to refer to it as the Hank Zine, he's looking, he's going to cure the world. So Tom Hanks can do no wrong at this point. He's a superhero.
I have a news item that went across my radar. We talked about this a while ago as it was rumored, but I read last week, I think, that it was officially official that Sam Raimi is going to direct the new Doctor Strange movie.
Oh, that's
so
huge. That's
no longer a rumor. It's definitely happening.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they managed to coerce Sony to giving Spider-Man a little bit
I
of
just
a
watched
cameo.
Far From Home again last night. It was on, and boy, it really is growing on me.
Yeah, I watched it maybe 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I've just been going through my stack in these quarantine weekends. I just wish that they would bring back the Lizard and do him justice, because
Yeah.
That Lizard and Amazing Spider-Man was piss poor.
You gotta, I know, but you just gotta move on. There's so many other characters to deal with, Sinister Six, Craven.
Yeah. As long as they just hold on the Green Goblin. I'm not saying never do the Green Goblin again, but
no, never do the Green Goblin again. No, or maybe Hobgoblin.
Yeah,
Hobgoblin maybe, but it's still
or
the
Demi-Goblin. Yeah. But you can't have Hobgoblin.
Wait, is there really is there a Demi-Goblin?
Demi-Goblin is actually a demon. Yeah, that's not just a guy in a suit.
It's funny. You just reminded me, which was even though it's backed up, the Venom 2, they released the title, which is All Out Carnage.
I was expecting All Out Carrot Top from the looks of Woody Harrelson's wig.
He looked more like Sideshow Bob. Come on. Yeah, Woody Harrelson. Interesting. So there you go. That's all the news I got.
All right. So as promised, this episode is all about John Carpenter. So Christina, take it away. This is your pick.
Well, yeah, so I believe I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we first talked about this episode, but this is the brainchild of one of our family dinner conversations. So one of the things that happens in my household very, very frequently is that we start arguing about the merits of various John Carpenter movies.
Which is great.
And
nerd alert.
And my husband's favorite John Carpenter movie is Big Trouble in Little China. The last time we were talking about it, I said I thought that was a very atypical Carpenter movie because it's not a horror movie. And I said, and so is Starman. And then I thought, light bulb, let's do an episode about atypical Carpenter movies. And there's some irony in me making this suggestion because I actually don't like Big Trouble in Little China that much.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, I did notice you pointed out that it was your husband's favorite John Carpenter movie.
Yes.
Oh, we're throwing him a bone since we've been watching that other movie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because, I feel like every couple of weeks, he tries to tell me that Jack Burton is a better character than McGreedy, and I have to insist otherwise.
He just likes to poke the bear, huh? Wow.
And then we argue about it for like 20 minutes. And the last time it happened, my son was like, "Are you guys arguing about Kurt Russell characters again?" So yeah, this is our atypical Carpenter episode, and we're going to be talking about Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice.
And about Starman. And by the way, this episode, my mother has already said she will listen to this one because these are two of her favorite movies.
Really?
Hi, Mom.
Yes.
Awesome.
Christina, what is your husband's history with this movie? Do you know when the first time he saw it?
I don't know.
Why is it his favorite Carpenter movie?
Honestly, like, if you knew him, you would understand why this is his favorite movie. It's like exactly right up his alley. It has the kind of it has fantasy elements, it has martial arts elements, it has some really dumb humor.
I like it more already.
This is exactly the kind of thing that he likes. And I remember watching this when I was younger because my mom loved it. And probably the reason why my mom watched it in the first place is because she loves Kurt Russell. So
could you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially back then, in his heyday. Yeah. In his heyday.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too because I thought about this when I was watching Big Trouble in Little China. If John Carpenter wasn't directing this movie, and if Kurt Russell and the rest of the cast, which for the most part is really good, wasn't in this movie, this would be like a genuine crap movie. This is like one of those things where like the participation of a few people can make a big difference in the quality because honestly the script isn't that strong. And I thought about it because I was thinking about when we did Hard Target and I said, that John Woo had originally wanted to cast Kurt Russell and that casting Kurt Russell would have improved that movie a lot. So this is one of those cases where the casting made a big difference because Kurt Russell just sort of goes all in on this really dumb character.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Right. And can you believe, in just reading some of this stuff, that they were considering first Clint Eastwood and then Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, I can't
or
imagine.
Jack Burton?
I can't imagine someone with like no sense of humor playing
this
Right,
character.
part.
Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Exactly.
So this was released July 1986, and I remember vividly seeing this in the theater in the South Hills Mall, and I was alone. And I think it was one of the first times that I went to a movie just completely by myself, because usually my dad would go with me because we had the same taste, but for one reason or the other, this was a drop-off situation, and loved it. And so I know this movie maybe not as well as your husband does, but like it's one of these movies where when you're watching it, you know the dialogue in your head before they say it. I've seen it that many times. And it's funny. It is, I agree that it is kind of disjointed. The special effects sometimes aren't up to par, like on a Thing type level.
Yeah, but 86. I mean,
But
most of the special
a lot
effects
of
are
this,
very tongue-in-cheek to begin with. So.
And it's, very garish, like the neon lights like around everything in the big layer scene at the end. But still, I think that really is the type of movie that this is.
It's a cheesy B movie. I mean, I think he went for that aesthetic.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost in the same vein as like a Flash Gordon kind of, so poppy and over the top that you can't help but just embrace it.
So the story is, I think, far more complicated than it needs to be. It's really easy, though, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Explain it to us.
I think the plot's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Right.
They throw a lot of curveballs at you, and it's so frenetic, the editing. But it's really, so this gang, the Lords of Death, have kidnapped Wang's fiance. Now, they were going to kidnap this other girl, but there's this skirmish at the airport, and apparently they just show at the airport and kidnap somebody. That's something that's on these guys' agenda, and then they sell them to the highest bidder. So they end up kidnapping Wang's girlfriend, who happens to have green eyes. And the rest of the movie is Jack Burton, Wang, and this gang of
Misfits.
Yeah, basically misfits. Yeah,
including Kim Cattrall from Mannequin and Sex and the City as Gracie Law, the lawyer, trying to get her back, and coming up against David Lopan, who is a 2,000-year-old entity who is worshiping the god of. And now that I say this, it is.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, it's straightforward. The Godfather of Chinatown himself,
it's a kidnapping.
David Lopan.
They're going into this fortress to get her back, and that's basically the plot of the movie.
Right, and they steal his truck.
That's all he cares about.
That's all he cares about. Yeah, Jack Burton.
Yeah.
The Pork Chop Express, which if I could just do my best Bobby Brady, pork chops and applesauce. He's not swell.
So, the character of Jack Burton is a truck driver, and he's delivering pigs and chickens and whatever else to Chinatown in San Francisco.
He's an essential worker right now, by the way.
He is an essential worker right now. And, of course, he stops off and plays a card game very a la Raiders of the Lost Ark, because this is, a very Indiana Jones kind of character. At least I think Jack Burton would like to think of himself as an Indiana Jones type of character.
Right. Meanwhile, he's anything but.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Carpenter has said, Jack Burton thinks he's the hero, but he is really the sidekick.
And that is true.
No, that is
true.
Yeah. No, a little more evident this time around when I watched it, realizing that he really takes, a step back from some of the other characters.
Almost every heroic thing he tries to do, he fails at.
Especially when he gets the gun and immediately knocks himself unconscious.
So he's delivering this food product to Chinatown, and he stops off and he has a card game with Wang, and he wins. And Wang is so desperate for money that he says that, okay, you've won all my money, which is like $1,100. If I can split this bottle with this knife, then double or nothing. Then I get the money back and then some. And of course he can't do it. So Jack ends up going with him to pick up his girlfriend at the airport, because he says, I can get your money after we pick up my girlfriend.
Right, yeah.
So one thing leads to another, and most of it is Jack sticking around so he can get his money back until his truck is stolen.
Correct.
And then does he ever get his money, actually, by the end of the movie?
I think I actually wrote that in my notes that he didn't. Yeah.
Once he gets his truck stolen, then he's involved.
Yeah, but then you have all these fantastic elements, and you can say with the sorcery and the Lopan and the three. What are those three guys?
The three. The
thunder, lightning, and rain.
There you go. The three storms. Yeah.
Now, just from the facial expressions of the three storms. I was expecting them to represent constipation, oily discharge, and explosive diarrhea.
Now that would have been some serious special effects.
That would have been. So let's talk about that, though. The first big set piece in this, after Ming Yao gets kidnapped, the girl with the green eyes, Jack and Wang get in his truck and they go after the Lords of Death, right? So they go into this, they're actually driving through Chinatown, and then all of a sudden they drive into like a back alley set.
Yeah.
Which is a very impressive set piece.
It is. Well, even the truck itself is it's almost like the Millennium Falcon. It's its own character to a certain degree. But yeah, that alley, I think, is where Zach Galligan's dad bought the Mogwai. So,
yeah, and I think we saw that in the background, actually.
I think it was going on.
So there's a little gang war that they get right in the middle of, and they're very easily distinguished because some have red turbans, or I don't think anybody was actually wearing a turban, which is what they were saying. The white turbans versus the red turbans.
A couple of them did have turbans, and I was like, that's not culturally correct.
Yeah, because that was a little confusing to me
cool.
as well.
Well, even those hats just reminded me of Mushmouth from Ed Albert.
So the red guys are the bad guys, and the white turban guys are the good guys. And then the Thunders show up in support of the red turbans, and then Lo Pan himself, like in spirit form, Jack drives right through him, and he doesn't let you forget that he drove through him for the rest of the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the setup, right? So they don't get the girl back. Jack gets his truck stolen, and then they end up having to infiltrate Lo Pan's warehouse, which is really a front for all these mystical dealings going on underground.
Yeah.
And it's like Kim Cattrall gets all this horrible expository dialogue.
Yes.
And like right before they go in there, he's like, I'm gonna go to the Wing Kong Exchange, and she's like, the Wing Kong Exchange, the most dangerous cutthroat den of madmen in Chinatown. It like she gets all these horrible lines in this movie.
Yeah, she basically repeats everything that's being said. Yeah.
But it should, and I'm sure, Christina, you probably saw this as well, that Carpenter was going for that 1930s type of feel with that rat-a-tat dialogue, and she got the brunt of that.
Yeah, but it doesn't work because it doesn't work because she has all this kind of expository dialogue, and Jack Burton's character is so dumb he can't like bounce off somebody that way. Like if you want to have rat-a-tat dialogue, the two characters need to be smart. You need to see that they're smart.
Right. Or at least the Jack Burton character has to be like the eyes and ears of the audience, where he can actually interpret what she's saying for the audience, but he can't. He's not capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And I know that Carpenter is like a huge Howard Hawks fan, so it makes sense that he was going for that kind of thing. But yeah, it just doesn't really work. And the Wang's fiance has like no lines.
No.
In the movie.
What was her name? Yao Yin?
Yao Yin. And she has like one line at the end. Like she doesn't speak for the duration of the movie. And she had to wear those horrible green contacts. And so did Kim Cattrall.
I was going to say, they both have green eyes, yeah.
Because neither of them actually have green eyes.
CG wasn't there yet. You couldn't just color.
Now, I was just looking. I didn't write down her name, the name of the actress that played Miao Yin, but I was just curious because, I noticed as well, she didn't speak much in the movie, and she was a model. So I don't know how much acting experience she had or how much she had after this. Russell has some of the most iconic one-liners in this movie that are eye-rollingly bad, but he pulls it off. Yeah. I think my favorite is "Son of a bitch must pay."
Obviously, the classic, it's all in the reflexes.
There you go. I thought it's interesting that with all the violence going on, there's no blood.
Yeah.
No blood whatsoever. I mean, I think maybe at the end, Lo Pan gets a little on him when he becomes mortal, but otherwise, you don't see anything. So it is very much cartoon violence.
Yeah, I think that just sort of plays into the fantasy elements of it,
right?
Of the movie. So do you guys know that they actually rushed the production of this film so that it would get out before the Golden Child?
Golden Child. Yeah. Who knew? If they'd known, they could have taken their time.
They were sweating over that Golden
Child.
I
mean, like you said, Kurt Russell was at his heyday, but Eddie Murphy was right behind him. Who knew that was going to be a stinker.
Yeah, I think that was his first bomb, was the Golden Child.
That one.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I did not see Big Trouble in Little China in the theater, but I did see Golden Child in the theater.
And I looked it up. Golden Child ended up making $79.8 million.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And Big Trouble in Little China made 11.1.
Wow.
So, and obviously, like, time has been kinder
Yes.
to Big Trouble in Little China than it was to Golden Child. But you know what's weird? James Hong, who's Lopan, Victor Wong, who's Egg Shen, and Peter Kwong, who plays Rain, are all in the Golden Child as well.
Shit.
Really?
Wow.
So that's very interesting. So if they had to rush production, like, what did they film first? I'm wondering.
Right.
I don't know.
That's wild. You know, so speaking of that, so this is driving me nuts, and I did some research, and I can't find an answer, but in the very opening scene, when you meet Egg Shen, and he's in the police station filing the report.
I think he's in the lawyer's office.
Lawyer's office.
And it's Deep Throat. It's Deep Throat.
Isn't that
from the
Darren
X-Files.
McGavin?
No, that's Deep Throat from the X-Files.
I kept thinking he was Kolchak. Boy, I really have a hard time with these guys sometimes.
That scene was added at the request of the studio, by
I
the
did
way.
read that. Otherwise, it would have just started with Jack in the truck, right?
But yeah, well, you know, to establish Jack's character, it does nothing to establish Jack's character.
Egg Shen's like, oh, Jack Burton, he's greatest. He helped us all.
Right. The studio thought that Jack Burton wasn't heroic enough, which is like, I guess you guys didn't get the point of the movie, but
he still gets front on that poster, that movie poster. Which
if
is very
anything, like the
iconic.
audience, like, well, this is not what the guy said at the beginning of the movie.
Right, exactly. You know what I love though? There's a scene early on in the movie where Jack has to infiltrate into the brothel, and he's dressed as his character from Used Cars.
From Used Cars, yeah.
Right. I thought that was great.
it's so funny that you guys say that, because this is how steeped in Kurt Russell lore that I am, because I thought he was totally like the computer wore tennis shoes.
Oh, you went back even further.
Yeah.
Wow. I will say I've seen this a number of times, and I didn't enjoy it as much this go round.
Really?
And I don't know why. It was, like I said, I never saw it in the theater. This is one of those that probably has been on VHS. I've rented it 100 times. I don't own it. But I don't know. Listen, it's still good. It's still entertaining, but it was just something was kind of like worn away from me. So it probably has been quite a while since I've seen this.
Maybe over familiarity has deadened its appeal to you over time.
I don't know. I don't know.
There's something about this movie. I feel like it's really, really an 80s movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, it definitely.
It's dated. Yeah.
Like at different points, like I was reminded of the Goonies, which actually came out around the same time.
Yep.
Army of Darkness. Like when Wang's telling the story of the various legends, I thought of the Goonies. Like Jack Burton is really a dumber version of Ash, in some ways.
That's possible. But yeah, okay.
And like all those movies kind of came out around the same time, and it's like they all just have this kind of indefinable 80s-ness,
And the soundtrack doesn't help.
Well, no, I mean Carpenter's got that very synthesizer. But even like that character Margot, like she's wearing the exact same outfit as Jennifer from Back to the Future. So and that so some of the attire.
It's not just the clothes, though. It's like some quality in the storytelling that just makes me say, okay, this is a mid-'80s movie.
Right.
Like it couldn't have been made at any other time.
No, it could not have.
It could not have been made any other time.
But saying that, they are looking into remaking this or actually making it equal to it.
Stop.
The Rock wants to do it.
The Rock?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see that.
And he wants to do it with Carpenter, but Carpenter doesn't really do much directing anymore, so I don't know.
No, and he is very hesitant from what I've read to get involved in this. But I read that this was originally going to be a Western.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Was that where you were going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which would have been an interesting. We'd have to wait 20, 30 years later for Cowboys versus Aliens.
Now, apparently the script was so bad that the studio threw it out, and the two original screenwriters, they didn't want to give them credit because they brought in another writer to update because they thought that the main problem with the script was with the setting, the timeline. Audiences wouldn't be able to relate to this turn of the century period piece. And the character of Jack Burton was a cowboy rather than a truck driver.
So they would have stolen his horse instead?
I don't know.
Right.
All the stuff that I've read said the studio thought the script was garbage, so they brought in another writer to update. I'm like, why would you even update it if you thought the script was
If you
garbage?
thought it was
Just throw it out.
horrible. This soup tastes horrible. Let's add more salt.
So yeah, Gary Goldman and David Weinstein, the original writers of the script, and it was adapted by W.D. Richter, who brought it up to speed, and they fought to keep their names on it, and they won. And so they're still listed as the screenwriters with contributions by Richter. Just all this behind-the-scenes stuff I find fascinating.
And Richter, by the way, directed The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Which I think tells you a lot.
A lovely stinker. That is one of those movies that, boy, you either absolutely adore or you despise it.
And guess what?
Your husband loves it.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
It's so out there. It is so out of left field.
Carpenter did not have a good time working with Fox with this movie. And so much so that he vowed never to work with a big studio again after this movie.
It's like, I'm just doing my own crap for now on.
Yeah. So it seemed like it wasn't in his hands from the get-go. But he did, there's one interesting thing I read is that Fox wanted him to cast a current, and I don't see any names attached to this, but they wanted a girl singer to take the Gracie Law part, to give it that MTV type edge, so they could have like a tie-in music video and everything else.
Cyndi Lauper?
Think of who was out at
who would
the time.
you
Who could
get?
Madonna?
86? Madonna?
Yeah.
She was actually doing more sophisticated stuff than this. I can't.
So Carpenter fought for Kim Cattrall, and he won on that. Yeah, I can't see who they would have gotten.
Debbie Gibson. I had such a crush on her.
But yeah, going back to it, yeah, it was a box office failure because it was, I think, upwards of 20 million to make, and it only made, as Christina said, 11 at the box office, 11 million. And I remember, I think I may have been the only one in the theater when I went to go see this thing.
Sounds it.
But it made a huge impression on me. Like, I was counting the days until I could get it.
Well, it is unlike anything. I mean, even though, like Christina says that, there's all these other movies that it seems to kind of pull from. But, I mean, go back then. I mean, that was, I do remember, the VHS, and you're just like, I've never seen anything like this, because it is kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's a little, it's cheesy effects, and it's just it's enjoyable.
Now, I did see that there is an extended ending on the Blu-ray because they never actually get their revenge on the Lords of Death, who caused this whole thing to begin with. So after they get out of the warehouse and they're all back in the truck, they happen to see the Camaro or whatever the car was the Lords of Death were driving, the red car. So they follow them and then knock them off a pier into the water. And whether they die or not, you don't know. So
they just got wet.
Yep.
Revenge is mine.
Now, were the Lords of Death there expressly on orders of David Lopan to get a girl with green eyes, or was it all just a random kidnapping and it happened to work out for David Lopan in the end?
I felt like it was random.
Because they looked at that girl right in the face.
Didn't really put that much thought into it.
Because no, the first girl that they grabbed, the girl that Gracie was meeting at the airport,
right?
They look at her face before they take her away, and then Jack gets involved, and then they grab Miao Yin. To me, that maybe that they were purposely looking for the girl with green eyes. I don't know. I'm looking much too deeply into this movie.
I have no idea how they could know that a girl with green eyes was going to get off a plane at that moment.
Right, so. Unless they read her Tinder profile before.
Lopan had that demon that he was worshiping. Maybe he knew something that we don't. I don't know.
You're reading too much into it.
Yeah.
We'll never know. If only that floating eyeball was still around.
Yeah, did you get like a very Star Wars vibe from that?
Oh yeah, he looks
eyeball?
just like he looks like not only the Dianoga in the trash compactor, but even the little remote that Luke was fighting.
So you guys know that Richard Edlund, the special effects cinematographer, worked on Star Wars,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's probably that little eye guy is probably the most impressive special effect in this movie, because I thought it looked really cool the first time I saw it, and it holds up to this day.
Well, even like that silly Chewbacca-looking creature thing that pops up at the end. You see him for like a bit second.
The orangutan monster.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
orangutan monster. I don't know
With
what you want to call him.
I gotta love those things. That also in Conan the Destroyer, then when he fights that lizard guy, and it's just like the guy from Star Trek that Kirk fought.
Oh yeah,
where
the
it's just
Goran.
like a lizard mask with one expression.
Right.
That was this orangutan thing.
Egg's office was the Ghostbuster firehouse.
Really?
Yeah, same set. They filmed there,
Huh.
which is in Lower Manhattan, by the way.
There's a lot of theories as to why this failed at the box office. Maybe the mishmash of genres was a little bit off-putting for some audiences. It was released 2 weeks before Aliens, so it kind of got caught up in the pre-buzz, word of mouth for Aliens. So maybe, people were saving their money until they could go see that one. But it got mixed reviews. It wasn't panned really completely.
Low panned?
It wasn't low panned. It wasn't low balled either. Harlan Ellison, who gave brutally frank reviews.
Yes, he is known for his bruntness.
Now, he actually liked this. Here's the quote. This is more of an insult to moviegoers at large than the movie, but some of the funniest lines spoken by any actor this year to produce a cheerfully blathering live-action cartoon that will give you release from the real pressures of your basically dreary life.
Wow. That's spot on, by the way.
Spot on, yes.
Right.
An attack on fanboys before they were even called fanboys.
We all need a release at this point.
What should we give in terms of buckets? Big Trouble in Little China. Now, if your husband were co-hosting the show, I think this would be on the 5-bucket list.
Maybe a
at this
5
point,
bucket,
right?
If he was, but he isn't.
He's not. It's your own show. Wow.
I think I may be giving the most buckets out of all three of us here. So I'm going to go 3 3/4. I was originally going to say 3 3/4, but I think I've talked myself up to a 4 after talking.
I'll go 3.5.
And I'm just going to say it's a 3. Like, it's fine.
It's still, yeah.
It's not like, it's not the kind of movie that I would get up and like leave the room if it was on. But it's like there's like 5 Carpenter movies I'd rather watch before this one. So, including Starman,
Right.
which is our next feature.
Yeah.
But as you said, it is very unique in the Carpenter canon, so it's kind of unfair to compare it
to other,
like especially to The Thing, because it's like apples and oranges. It's 2 totally different things.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has its charms. It's got its merits. And it is a beloved cult classic.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And you should probably, if you go check it out, because maybe it'll make your day suck a little bit less.
Yeah, according to Harlan Ellison, yeah.
According to Harlan.
So with that, let's go to the concession stand. It's been a while since we've been.
It has. I hope they got fresh popcorn.
Yeah, let's go and come back.
Okay.
The big ship foundered on the rocks, but the crew all got ashore. Then Fearless Fred dived in again and swam toward the wreck once more. He'll never make it! The waves are too high. But he made it back to land.
I had to return to the ship.
He explained.
For my toddy, the chocolate drink that's just grand. Toddy does taste grand. At the snack bar or at your car. During intermission, enjoy a toddy, the delicious chocolate drink in a can. Ice cold or steaming hot, toddy hits the spot with everybody. See how much better that popcorn or those hot dogs taste with toddy.
Delicious.
Okay, we're back. And what is on our agenda now, Christina?
She just revealed it.
1984 Starman, starring Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen. This one really does have a very straightforward plot. Jeff Bridges plays an alien who comes to Earth. He's supposed to come down and check us out for a few days. His ship is blown off course by some really paranoid guys at NORAD. And he crash lands in Wisconsin near the isolated home of a widow named Jenny Hayden. And he takes on the form of her dead husband.
Yeah. This is what happens when you leave hair clippings around, right? Aliens impersonate your dead husband.
And at the beginning of the movie, like she's really emotionally vulnerable. Like she's clearly still grieving him. She's watching videos of them together. She doesn't seem to be eating, but she's definitely drinking a lot. There's like open bottles of pills next to her bed table.
That's pretty much all of us right now. Right?
She doesn't
So-
put pants on, right?
No, yes,
Well-
Karen and her undies.
I don't know if it was meant to be titillating. I felt more that scene was supposed to, she's emotionally vulnerable and she's also physically vulnerable. Because I know that if some intruder came into my house, I would want to have my pants on.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah. But she
yes.
put her boots on first, then her pants. Who does that?
Yeah, that's got to be difficult, right?
That was, yeah. And Jim, I'm going to tell you right now, I am going to refrain from butchering any more Bowie classics. So don't. If anybody missed that 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, I don't know what key you were
I
singing
don't
that
know
in.
what the hell, dude. I can usually carry a tune. I did sing in high school, but it's been quite some. And that was a creepy ass Star Baby, by the way. That was just, I would have friggin' kicked that thing right out the window.
So you know who did the special effects for that? Dick Smith,
Yes.
Stan Winston, and
Winston,
Rick
yeah.
Baker.
Yes.
Which I feel like if you look at it, it's like almost like you can see sort of the Stan Winston face.
It's not. Listen, it's nowhere near the American Werewolf transformation.
It was like it reminded me of the It's Alive baby almost.
Yes, yes,
Didn't it?
Yeah. And for like a second, it actually looked like the little baby orca that pops out on the deck in Oregon.
Don't remind me of that.
Oh, that's one we haven't watched yet.
So the baby grows in the space of a few minutes into a full-on Scott Hayden impersonator, Jeff
Right.
Bridges.
Jenny is watching as this happens.
Yeah, it's just it's like she's probably questioning how much she drank.
Yeah, if it's a real thing. And I just like to point out that he comes armed with glowing balls.
Not marbles.
No,
We're talking about
This is a family show, guys.
Right.
right.
when he squeezes his golden balls, then magic things happen.
Jim, my mom's going to listen to this
Mom,
podcast.
mom's like, oh my,
It's literally true.
that is true. I don't know. Did she? She should have fed him some Reese's Pieces, but that didn't happen. Do you notice that she never once asks him his name?
Yeah, he doesn't.
She just calls him Scott.
She says, "You look so much like Scott." In the credits, he's referred to as Starman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I've seen this movie before, and I don't think I truly appreciated it because again, it came out in '84, so it came out at the same time what Terminator came out, and you friggin' just monster movies that came out, Romancing the Stone. But Michael Douglas was a producer on this,
Yes.
which I didn't realize. But his performance is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we just talked about it. Was Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man 2 weeks ago? I could not take my eyes off him because he never once breaks this character. And you look at him, and we all know who Jeff Bridges looks like now. And he's so young, and all I kept thinking of was, damn, he looks like the CG version on Tron when they went back and redid his face, right, in the Tron Legacy. But he's just such a like a blank slate, innocent, like a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew me away. I enjoyed this so much more than Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah,
which is the only Carpenter
understandable.
film to ever get a
Yeah.
nomination.
But when you watch this, you realize why.
But it's so interesting because he is amazing. Because you really get the sense that he's never been inside a human body before.
Yeah.
Just like the way he moves, just even like sort of the rotation of his joints. It's not just the funny things that he says.
His performance is just off the charts.
But it wouldn't work without Karen Allen.
No, and this really makes you sad that she didn't get more work.
She's so amazing because you can see her eyes are so expressive, and I feel like you can see all these layers that are going on inside her. Imagine how you would feel if someone you loved so much came back seemed to be before you again, but then it's not actually him, and then of course he's kidnapped her. So, she's just full of like this like sort of roiling, conflicting emotions. And I think she just does such a good job of like rooting this character in reality and really making you feel her conflict throughout
because
the movie.
She had numerous times to kind of break away from him and somehow always ends up realizing that he needs her.
But
Like
it's not done in a superficial way because she is afraid in the beginning of the movie. In the first stages of this kidnapping, which
I mean, there are
it
definitely
is,
consequences
right?
for her at this
So
point.
you know, she
because
tries to leave that message on the mirror in the bathroom. That she's
in
been
the gas
kidnapped.
station.
I think the turning point is when he brings the deer back to life.
Yeah, it is. There's like 3 big turning points, and like, you know, the first one is when she pulls the car over and she says, you know,
Yeah.
if you want to kill me, just kill me now because I can't do this. And he holds up the gun and he drops the clip out of it,
Yep.
and he says, I mean you no harm. So
Right.
like there's one stage like where their relationship is kind of moving toward trust, and then the second big turning point is when he brings the deer back to life, and she has a choice then, because the woman inside the truck stop runs out and says, the bus is leaving, do you want me to hold
Yeah,
it
she's
for you?"
literally running out the back door. She's
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Before she sees him outside with the deer.
Right.
Mhm.
But this, we were talking before about how steeped in the 80s, Big Trouble in Little China. I think for me, this is even more so steeped in the 80s, because I saw this in the theater and loved it in the theater because it gave me, I think the filmmakers were afraid of this, but, you know, it really reminded me of E.T., but on a whole different level.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same story going on here,
Yeah.
but, you know, with a romantic angle on the alien. To me, it's like up there with the 80s pillars like Footloose or the other big movies that came out that year. And I always loved Jeff Bridges. King Kong alone makes me a Jeff Bridges fan for life.
Yes. Yeah.
I was so happy when he got the Oscar nomination for this. But
Yeah.
looking back at this, I can't believe that this wasn't a bigger hit. I thought this was huge back in the 80s, but it was made for 24 million and it only made 28 million. So it was like 4 million in profit. And I thought it was a much bigger movie than that.
Yeah, but like we said, it came out, you know, the same year as Romancing the Stone, Terminator, Against All Odds. There's all these other movies that
Against All Odds, Jeff Bridges is in that too.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I think maybe it just kind of, like I said, I remember seeing this, but it wasn't like it really resonated with me when I watched it this go around. Like I really was blown away by it, where I don't remember being, because it wasn't E.T. You know, it wasn't. It's not a big spectacle. It's not. You know, he's a human alien. He's not like an alien. You know what I'm saying?
But you know what else it is? This is like how I always say Jaws isn't really about the shark, right? Jaws is really about Quint and Brody and Hooper. You know,
Right.
It's not really about the shark, even though the shark is the title of the film. Starman isn't really about Starman. It's about Jenny. It's about the fact that she never got to say goodbye, and now she has this chance to say goodbye.
And we haven't brought up the fact that Charles Martin Smith is in this.
Yeah.
He elevated any movie that he was in the 80s. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Never Cry Wolf, and that is one of my favorite 80s movies. And he is the main actor, and I'm very disappointed that he never got leading roles like that again. He's very good in Starman.
And he's great in The Untouchables too. Love him.
Yes,
in The Untouchables.
Yeah.
And of course, American Graffiti, where he runs his moped into the bushes.
The SETI guy. I mean, he's a main. You know, it's just as much his story as he's trying to unravel and figure out what the hell is going on and who this character is and whether or not he has ulterior motives to what's going on here. So.
Kind of reminds me of Francois Truffaut's character in Close Encounters.
In Close Encounters.
Yes,
yeah.
Just sort of like that wide-eyed wonder, that person who just really wants to have the experience, who wants to meet the alien, who doesn't want to like shoot him down or, you know, give him an autopsy or, you know, whatever. He just wants to meet him. He wants to know that there's other life out there.
Right. I would have loved to have had Jenny say to Charles Martin Smith, "Who the hell are you people?" Like,
you're right. Dreyfus, yeah.
Now, you know, we just talked about The Thing not too long ago. Carpenter talked about how because The Thing was such a box office bomb, because it opened against E.T. and all these other factors, that it kind of took him off the map of a lot of studios for quite some time, if not, you know, for good. And I thought to myself, well, wait a second, he made Starman. That was a huge movie. And again, you know, looking at this, I guess it wasn't.
No,
Yeah.
but this was his conforming to studio, you know, the corporate, you know, I'm going to make a more traditional type of movie to show them that I have the chops.
But he leans right into it. Like, you know, there's no irony. Like he's not he's not removed from it. He leans into the emotional resonance of the story and like he really lets it happen.
Yeah, the emotion is all over the place. to a little extent, I feel that this has in common with Terminator as well, with the whole baby aspect.
I mean,
don't
the
know.
baby's like a gift for her again.
Right.
Like, it's really
Yeah.
about her husband. It's not really about
No,
the
it's not
Starman.
right. It's not like no. It's like,
You
oh,
know.
you can have a baby? I'll fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come with me. I thought they were going to find some crisis actors in the train car, though.
I think he still had at least one of those balls left by the time he said.
Well, so he had, at the beginning of the movie, he had like, what, 7 or 8 marbles? But they must, like, you get used up as he uses them.
Right.
So at the end, he only had 2 left, right? And he left 1 to give to the baby.
Right.
Who I guess she's going to name Kal-El. Is he going to be Superman?
There was a TV show. There was a TV show that came out on the 86-87 season.
With the
had
son?
Robert Hayes come back as the Starman character, but in a different form to visit the sun. And it lasted for 1 season. And
really?
I didn't even remember this until I read about it
at all.
for this. I maybe watched 1 or 2 episodes, and it was terrible. It was really terrible.
I love the end of this movie, though. I love how, like, you don't actually see him go up to the ship. Like, he sort of walks into the snow, and then you just see her face as the ship flies away. Yep. So beautiful. Like, to me, that's the
you don't need to see
ending.
him get beamed up. You don't need
right.
They really, outside of like, you know, like at the beginning when you see him, you know, transform into this human and grow, especially effects wise, there's really, I mean, it's all grounded. It's nothing really fantastical. You know, even the spaceship is just a giant orb.
This is a weeper for me. I cannot get through the end of this movie without crying. And it doesn't matter how many times I watch it. I know what's coming. Yeah. Like, okay, like it started. You know?
Yeah, here it comes. Yeah. But he wasn't initially. There was like 6 directors altogether that were
there. Yeah, there was. He was
point.
Just one in a long line of directors that were attached
you
to
mentioned E.T. I think this was in development the same time as E.T. and Columbia like passed it up.
I think I read that it was originally acquired in like 79. So it had been like sort of looping around for several years before it finally got made.
E.T. was initially called Night Skies. And it was going to be a Spielberg movie, and they, for one reason or other, passed it up.
Yeah, we'll pass on
in
that.
favor of Starman.
They do end in Arizona, Winslow, Arizona, which I heard is such a fine sight to see.
Winslow, Arizona.
It's a girl, my lord, and a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Eagles? Anybody? Nobody?
No.
Jim?
Nope.
I'm done here.
He's got to get to the rendezvous point, right? They've got
Which
to
is
come pick him
Arizona,
up, or he's going to die. Now, what was the point of him coming if he's just going to die in 3 days?
Well, I think
it's a very short vacation.
I think it wasn't going to be an issue because I think he assumed his craft wasn't going to crash.
Right. He comes down, he takes some soil samples, and he leaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Mark Sherman asks him, so you're like an anthropologist? You know, he's basically coming to observe us for a few days and then like go home with the report. You know, he's like a field scientist.
Right. No binoculars. He had no field book, nothing. Ill-equipped to take notes, that's for sure.
And they definitely come with a heavy firepower at the end. The missiles coming off of those.
There's a lot of helicopters in this movie. There's a lot of helicopters.
It was very impressive. I think more than Apocalypse Now. They had more helicopters.
Probably.
But you know, it's so weird because they're like just give them warning fire, and they're dropping huge ordnance down there. Like just the shrapnel could kill them. If
I know,
got
right?
too close.
I think the Empire did less in the asteroid field trying to get rid of the Falcon. Kevin Bacon was initially cast for this.
Really?
That's what
I didn't know that.
And I read that Michael Douglas had wanted to do it himself when they first acquired the script. But then for some reason he ended up not doing it. And then when Jeff Bridges was cast, the studio had wanted a different actress, but Carpenter wanted Karen Allen because she was closer in age to Jeff Bridges. He wanted 2 people who looked like they had actually, you know, been married and had a relationship. So
you had mentioned, Christina, that this is not as much about the alien aspect as it is about the relationship aspect and in Jenny's story. And it's funny, Carpenter says that he was looking for more of like a road movie kind of a thing rather than an ET kind of feel. So it does kind of strike me, just being with my history of liking stupid movies. It's like Cannonball Run meets ET. So it is a road.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of gas stations, right? Just like there is a Cannonball Run. But
a
I don't
lot
say that
less
to be
Jamie Farr
detrimental.
though.
Yeah, I love Starman. I love Cannonball Run. So that is not a dig at Starman whatsoever. No, the Voyager 2. So this is the reason why Starman comes to Earth to begin with, because we invite him.
Yeah.
And here's the message from the gold disc. Now,
What do we expect? We're sending this thing out into.
What kind of a turntable does he have that he can listen to this gold?
Well, I
disc?
think that it plays the gold record plays in the Voyager itself.
Does it play?
I think there is.
Do they have it on on loop?
You would
on the
have
Voyager?
to. How else do you expect an alien to somehow have a vinyl record? But I will say that they cheated because the Rolling Stones are not on there. The only song is Johnny Be Good.
What kind of bucket for Starman?
Oh, I'm gonna go 4 1/4.
Yeah, I'd say like a solid 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is on par with Big Trouble in my mind, so I'm going to go 4 as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
This is very nostalgic for me because I haven't seen this as much as I've watched Big Trouble in Little China. So watching it now brought me right back to that time period.
Do you know the actor who was the hunter is what was his name? Ted White, and he plays Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know Jason was that old.
Yeah, he's been around a while. Yeah.
In all of them, he plays. Jason?
I don't think he did all. No, I think probably in the initial. I couldn't tell you which ones because I'm sure that there's been multiple actors that have you slap a mask on you and you're good to go, as long as you got the body type.
Yeah, imagine ripping that hockey mask off and seeing this vaguely Italian-looking old man.
Yeah. What are you doing? You thought you're my deer. What are you doing? That was a tiny doe, by the way. I doubt it was legal. He probably. And who ties the dead deer to the front of your car?
Was it on the front or was it on the back?
Yes,
it was on the front.
It was on the front.
Wow, what a jerk.
You're right.
It's like a hood ornament.
Yeah, basically. Look what I did. Yeah, you're a big guy. Bridges was studying ornithology and bird behaviors to kind of inform his character the way that he was moving about. And
that's always how I envisioned Arnold Schwarzenegger talking to his wife, calling her by her full name, Maria Shriver. Jenny Hayden, Maria Shriver. So this
is the beginning of our atypical series because I think we're going to do something more.
We are, but we got to do a confessional first.
Oh, that's good. Let's go confessional.
Confessionals.
You guys, I forgot the confessional.
Oh, no!
All right. Well, hold on. I'm going to tell you right now. Here it is. Which was, and Jim was all over this, so he has an answer, and I have an answer. So if you have to go last.
Do you remember what it was? Do you remember?
No.
Yes. Are you ready? Name something you really wanted more than anything for Christmas, but never actually got. All right. Jim knew immediately, so we're going to go with Jim first.
All right. So,
Make something up.
There's a lot of stuff that I got that I wanted. I wasn't really lacking most Christmases. And I had pretty simple tastes. Mostly it was just like, the Shogun Warriors or the Godzilla with the shooting fist. Whatever the latest Star Wars stuff was. The Alien 12-inch. I remember getting the Millennium Falcon one Christmas, and I was very happy about that.
I did as well.
But the one thing I always wanted but never got was the Imperial Walker. The AT-AT.
Oh, because that was a chunk of change.
That was a chunk of change. That was the premier piece of Star Wars merchandise from Kenner, I think. Yeah. That was that Imperial Walker. My friend had it.
That sticks in your craw when your friends have it and you don't.
I had to settle with only getting to play with it when I went over that kid's house. But he didn't have the Millennium Falcon for some reason.
Oh, so the two of you. So there you go.
Yeah, so I brought the Falcon and he had the Imperial Walker. Now, I also remember wanting the Star Destroyer, which wasn't, obviously, they couldn't make a full-on Star Destroyer. But it was like a cutaway type of a toy, I think, that had Darth Vader's chamber where you could sit him in and it goes. And
yep.
I don't think I ever had that either. But I didn't want that as much as
those were all like Empire toys.
They were, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So... and I think that Walker was probably one of the bigger toys until G.I. Joe's aircraft carrier came out. That thing was massive.
I never had that either.
No.
And I was a G.I. Joe fan, and I had the hovercraft. And
Okay.
I had the jet, but I never had that aircraft.
So, yeah, I'm going to say the same thing, which is, by and large, what I wanted for Christmas was pretty, the Millennium Falcon, like you said. And again, that was probably like a $25 toy at the time, which was a large chunk of what you were going to get. It's like, well, you can get 4 smaller toys or 1 big one. I did get the Death Star. So I had pretty much everything I wanted. I did get Olivia Newton-John and ABBA albums as well. So
On vinyl or cassette?
On vinyl.
On
Oh,
vinyl.
this was pre, yeah. I didn't get cassettes until I joined the Columbia Record House.
That should be another one of our confessionals. What was the first album that you bought with your own money?
Oh, I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But there was one thing, and I know my friend Jeff Gauss, who should be listening, there was a moment in time, probably 78 through 80, that we were semi-quasi neighbors. We were about 4 houses apart from each other, both huge Star Wars geeks, and every year the 2 of us would put on our Christmas list an 8mm camera so that we could recreate Star Wars using our action figures. And to this day, as far as I know, neither one of us have ever received it. But again, that's long before VHS. We couldn't just pop it in and watch the movie 100 times. I saw it once in the theater. I had the comic books. I had the posters. I had the trading cards, which was probably the next best thing because it had the little scenes in it. But yeah, a little 8mm camera, and boy, we were going to go to town. We were going to recreate everything.
Wow. You see,
And,
now, Jeff, you said you had the Death Star.
I did. I do. I still do.
See, so that was on my list one Christmas, and my father actually made me my own custom Death Star.
That's even cooler.
So it was made out of wood, I remember, and it had 3 levels. And of course, it was like a cutaway. It wasn't a round Death Star. It was just like 3 levels, and one of them was like and I think it also had like the tractor column as well. It went through all 3 levels. And it had like the Darth Vader, and it had like stormtroopers on the second one, and it had the trash compactor. And it had a hole in the second floor that they could fall through.
Okay.
To get into the trash compactor. And he had little square pieces of foam to represent the garbage, and you could actually push the walls together. He had 2 like
dude, that is unbelievable
pieces.
That is great. That's epic.
I wish I still had that. I really do.
Actually, you know what's funny? You just reminded me, one of the other things that I always wanted and never got, which was I wanted my bed to be an X-Wing fighter. And I figured it really didn't have to be anything more than a platform that tapered, and then I could just paint the engines and the wings on the wall.
Okay. Right? Yeah.
And it never happened.
Never happened.
I might do that now. I wonder if my wife would like that. That would be cool.
I remember I had Star Wars sheets, though.
Oh, who didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had the poster, the original, the first film poster.
Okay.
But I can't think of it. Honestly, like I'm sitting here racking my brain. I'm like, was there anything I really, really wanted that I didn't get? I don't remember.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I had a Millennium Falcon. I had
we would have been best friends, the 3 of us, if we all were in the same school. I don't know. I wasn't part of the cool kids though, so maybe
you were a little older than me, Jeff. You wouldn't have played with.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we all would have been in different grades.
That is true. Yeah, I would have been a creepy guy hanging out with the little kids. Want to hang out with the 6th graders today? Honey, you graduated 2 years ago.
No, gosh. I'm seriously racking my brain. I can't think of anything.
Not even a book? Like a book?
But my parents were so good. I mean, if there was a book I really, really wanted, I got it.
I got it.
You know? Yeah. And I had 3 sisters, and so there was a lot of toy sharing. So a lot of times, even if I didn't get something, one of them would.
Somebody else got one. It's like, you know, by proxy, you got to play with it.
Right. So there really wasn't a lot that I remember. Obviously, I was just about the right age when the Cabbage Patch Kids came out, and I thought that I wouldn't get one just because like everybody saw the videos of like parents killing each other and, you know, to get Cabbage Patch Kids. But my dad's cousin actually managed to get 4 of them, so we all got one.
Wow.
Damn, they must have fallen off the back of a truck somewhere. A cabbage truck.
So I actually can't think of anything that I didn't get that I really, really wanted. I mean, there's probably something that, you know, I was dying for at the time, but I can't remember it now.
Right. It goes away real quick, right? Yeah. Like I said, by and large, I have no complaints. was happy with what I got, but the camera was a big one, and that was a big ticket item. I don't think we ever really thought that we were going to get it, but we figured between the two of us, maybe the parents would pull together and buy us one.
You should do it now, Jeff. Make Super 8 films of yours.
I could just probably make it on my iPhone.
Yeah.
We're going to make Fraggle Rock episodes on iPhones.
My son does that. There's things that you can buy called stick bots that are made expressly for stop motion movies.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, my son also he has a stop motion app on his phone.
Imagine if we had this stuff when we were kids.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's crazy. So, speaking of Harrison, did you watch a Lego Masters or Lego Wars or whatever that show was?
No, not yet. Have you seen it?
There was a Star Wars episode. I've watched 2 episodes. There was a Star Wars episode, and then there was the finale. I saw those. Some of this stuff these guys are doing is just insane.
Now, what channel is this on again?
I don't remember. It's one of the 3 networks.
I think it's ABC. I think I've seen commercials.
They must have filmed it long in advance because these guys are 24 hours. One of the competitions for the finale was 24 hours. Like round the clock, you're making something. So I
couldn't do that.
No,
I have to sleep.
Right? I can't. How many times do you drop a piece and step on it, and you're like, I'm out. I'm done. That's it.
So what are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? I actually put it on my notes because I usually don't remember what we're doing next week.
I think it's your pick, Jeff, isn't it?
Oh, I thought we were going to go with the Jim's because the way I set up the Instagram graphics already.
Oh.
So I'm not.
All right. So then I guess I'm forced.
And I have 2. I have those all queued up. I'm going to watch those today, by the way. So.
Okay, so again, what we're doing now for the next 2 weeks now, since Christina has started it off with bringing in 2 movies from the same director, atypical as they may be. Jeff and I are going to do the same thing. We've picked our own directors, and we are going to showcase 2 of their movies. Mine, I didn't go atypical. Jeff and Christina did. I didn't think that deeply into it. I'm too lazy. So, so I am going with Luc Besson.
Luc Besson.
So bring your croissant. Bring your best striped shirts next week.
It's a Bessonathon.
The only 2 movies of note of his that I have readily available to watch are The Fifth Element and The Professional, in some circles known as Leon.
Leon?
Yes.
Listen,
so
they're not bad movies, man.
No, not only is it the tie with Luc Besson, but we also have Gary Oldman in both of these movies as well.
Very mercurial. Right?
Yes, he is.
I mean, he is something I was watching yesterday. He was in, and I'm just like, this guy is just like all over the place. He really
One of these days, I would love to cover Dracula.
One of these days, I would love to cover Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which was my favorite movie in high school.
I have no idea what.
I
don't even know what you just said.
Maybe we could do a Gary Oldman episode and bring both of them into it. Yeah,
we can do that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm excited because yes, these are The Fifth Element's one of my wife's favorite movies. So she's all excited to curl up on the couch today. Speaking
about your the homestead of Christina Henry, now share with us just as a little preview for next week that also it's a similar situation to Big Trouble in Little China, where this has divided your household, and I'm talking about The Fifth Element now.
Yeah. So again, my husband likes this movie, and I do not. But I love this. But I love The Professional. I'm gonna try to not vent my spleen about Fifth Element when we talk about it.
You gotta give into it, man. Just like Big Trouble, you just gotta go with it.
Does your family know yet that we're watching this for next week?
No, but
Mom does.
Sure. Yeah, I know. By the way, my mom also loves The Fifth Element, so she'll probably be back.
There you go. She's back next week already. We got her hooked in. I got a mom on the line.
My mom likes a lot of stuff, I think, that would probably surprise you, like in a 68-year-old woman, but she was the one.
Well, it sounds like she's exposed you to a ton of stuff, so it's not.
Yeah, when I was in high school, we used to watch Twin Peaks together. She would record it and wait for me to come home from work when I worked at the bookstore, Laureate's, where I worked with Jim. And when I came home from work, we would watch Twin Peaks together.
And then she'd spend 3 hours explaining it to you?
No, I think it was the other way around.
That stupid show went over my head. That was not for me. Don't
But
know what the
yeah,
hell's going
and
on.
when I was young, we watched all the Godzilla movies together. So yeah, I have to give my mom a lot of
There
credit.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I like your mom. I
Like-
want to be part of your family now. I think Jim's dad's building them Star Wars furniture. and
Christina, you'd be the only Debbie Downer in your family reunion. Like, we're all going to watch The Fifth Element. Really?
What? Really?
Like, no,
Let's
put
get
my
Jeff and
headphones
Jim
on.
over here. Where's Mom? She's coming over.
Okay, so that is what's on tap for next week.
Wow. This was much fun, guys. Thank you very much. I
Yes.
enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully, you out there listening enjoyed as well. And like I said, if we make your day suck a little bit less, then our job here is done.
Then we've done our job.
Woohoo! Whoop,
Yeah.
whoop, whoop. Oh, did we even announce that this is the first episode of season 3?
You're right. This is correct. Yes, 2 years ago, in April,
25th.
we
April
started
25th.
TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. So
Yes.
I don't know how podcast seasons work, but the way that we've kind of adopted it is that once a year we claim that we are in a new season. So that's what
I like it. I'm going with it.
Yeah, season
Doesn't
3.
matter. Here's the menu. All right, kids. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Be safe.
you.
Wash your hands.
Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Nerd alert. Wah, wah, wah.